help long before me.
When I went to my son's house, I found my 10-year-old grandson, who should have run away, chained up. As I was about to help him, he said that my daughter-in-law, who should have been deceased, was there. But your mom passed away. When I opened the floor as my grandson instructed, there was my dried-up daughter-in-law lying there. What on earth happened? I was in a panic due to the unimaginable situation. Afterward, a series of horrifying truths were revealed. A year ago, after my husband passed away, I had been living alone. However, my son's family lived just a 30-minute walk away, so I didn't feel lonely. Especially my 10-year-old grandson Ron, who often rode his bike to visit me.
Grandma. Look. I got a perfect score on my math test.
I was always charmed by my kind and smart grandson who visited me out of concern. My son Simon, at 34, was a company employee. He had earned a qualification in economics at university and was using it at work. He seemed busy, so we didn't see each other often, but I thought it was proof of his hard work. Instead, my daughter-in-law Lily often visited me. Hello, how are you doing? I was always grateful for her concern.
Mom, you should go on an overseas cruise.
Half a year ago, my son suddenly came over and gave me a 2-week trip as a gift. He said he wanted to cheer me up after losing my husband. Oh my! What a thoughtful gesture. Thank you. I joyfully went on the cruise with my hobby friends, planning to help my son and his wife when I returned. However,
Lily passed away a week ago, and we already had the funeral.
When I visited my son right after returning to deliver souvenirs, I was shocked to hear the news at the doorstep. It was so sudden that they had the funeral with just the two of them. No way. As I tried to peek inside the house, my son quickly blocked my view.
I didn't tell you because I wanted you to enjoy your trip.
Indeed, I was on the sea at that time. Did you inform her parents? What about Ron? I bombarded him with questions, and my son frowned.
I've contacted her parents, and Ron is in shock, so please leave him alone.
I couldn't believe Lily was gone. Can I come in? I asked, but my son glared at me.
Stop thinking only about yourself. You're really persistent.
He yelled and shoved me into the empty street, causing me to fall. This boy is also grieving the loss of his beloved family. I accepted what he said, feeling deeply ashamed of my selfishness. Looking up at my glaring son, I apologized and decided to leave. Now, I regret not forcing my way in then, for something terrible was already happening. The next day, I decided to call my son first to ask if he needed help instead of showing up unannounced. But he didn't answer, possibly busy with work. I wanted to visit Lily's grave and check on my grandson. Yet, I didn't want to burden my son with my demands. After several unanswered calls, I left a message asking if I could visit. The next day, still no call back, so I decided to call once more. After a few rings, my son answered with an irritated tone.
Why are you calling so much? I've got a lot going on here.
Why? Because I'm worried about you and my grandson.
By the way, Ron ran away. He left a note saying I'm following Mom.
I was horrified by the note my grandson left. Oh no. Did you call the police?
Of course. I called them immediately.
I was terribly worried about Ron. he must be lonely after losing his mother. Oh, please come back. My hand holding the phone grew cold and numb. I'll look for him too.
He'll come back eventually, so you don't need to do anything.
My son shouted as I was about to hang up. Maybe he was trying to keep me from worrying, but I couldn't ignore a missing 10-year-old. But what did the police say?
Huh? Oh, the police? They're doing interviews and searches.
My son's vague response made me suspicious.
Anyway, don't worry, he'll be back soon.
Then he angrily hung up. Is he really looking for Ron? A small doubt began to grow in my heart. That night, I couldn't sleep at all, constantly worrying about my grandson. As the sky began to lighten, I made a decision. Better to walk around searching for Ron than doing nothing. More searchers would be better. I headed to the police station as soon as the inquiry desk opened at 8:30. My grandson ran away, and you're searching for him, right? Any leads? The officer listened and checked the status. To my shock, they said no search request had been filed. What? That can't be. I was stunned, remembering my son's evasive answers. He's hiding something. Thanking the officer, I immediately went to my son's house. I rang the doorbell, but there was no response, as he was likely already at work. Using my spare key, I let myself in. From the back, I heard noises. Did he leave the TV on? Curiously, I headed towards the sound, finding my grandson chained in the kitchen storage space. Ron! What happened to you? I rushed to him and hugged him.
Grandma. Please. Help Mom first.
He pointed to the floor storage nearby with his chin. But your mom is gone, right? The funeral was held.
No. Mom is here. Please hurry.
He was in a panic, crying and kicking to get closer. His frantic expression made me realize something was seriously wrong. I fearfully opened the floor storage. No. Lily. There lay my daughter-in-law, mouth gagged, hands and feet bound with tape, dried up and lifeless.
It's all Dad's fault. Wah. Mom.
Seeing his changed mother, my grandson screamed and cried. I hugged him and immediately called an ambulance. The operator arranged for the police and rescue team to cut the chains, and both Ron and Lily were rushed to the hospital. In the ambulance, my sobbing grandson explained what had happened. What a horrible thing. I'll make sure he pays for this, Ron. Grandma will see to it. Listening to him, I vowed to bring justice for my grandson and daughter-in-law. Later, with the police, I heard more details in the hospital room. My son had been away for about a week. After Ron fell asleep, I asked the nurse to look after him and went straight to a lawyer's office. Determined to expose my son's crimes, I searched everywhere. 8 days after finding Lily and Ron, I was sitting in my son's living room. As I heard the front door open, it signaled my son's return home.
Mom?
Dressed in flashy shirts and jeans that didn't look like work attire, he was surprised to see me. Then, my son quickly glanced toward the kitchen. Of course, you'd be concerned about the kitchen, where you chained a 10-year-old child. When I glared at him, Simon looked startled.
Chained? What are you talking about? You mean the toy handcuffs he was playing with?
His flustered and lame excuse made me feel nauseous. Enough with the lies. You left a 10-year-old alone for over a week. You said Ron ran away from home, didn't you? When I accused him sternly, Simon's eyes darted around, occasionally glancing toward the kitchen.
He did run away, but the police found him.
Liar. You didn't even file a missing person report. I confirmed it myself. I stood up from the chair with a bang and yelled, making my son wince and fall silent.
But Lily's gone, and I have to work for the sake of the kid left behind.
He mumbled, sneaking glances to check if the floor hatch was open. That's completely different from what Ron told me. Just as I started speaking, my son shouted.
Enough already, you old hag. Haven't you finished menopause?
He raised his voice, interrupting me, and tried to drag me out of the house. I found your dried-up wife under the floor you keep glancing at. I know everything. I pushed his hand away with all my strength, my hair disheveled as I screamed. Simon paled at my words. In fact, I had heard the full story from my grandson on the day I found Ron and Lily. Ron had been on a 5-day camp until the day before I returned. When he came back, full of memories, Simon told him, "Mom has passed away." No matter what Ron asked, Simon didn't answer and blocked the kitchen with a partition, preventing access. My grandson cried, "I want to see Mom. I want to see Grandma," but Simon only yelled, "Shut up." When I visited Simon's house right after returning, Ron heard the doorbell and was thrilled.
Grandma's here.
He tried to run to the door, but Simon gagged him and held him down. You told him, you weren't here when your mom died, so the police suspect you. If you don't want to get caught, stay hidden.
I don't remember that.
Ron must have been terrified. Shocked by his father's words, my grandson hid in his room, holding his breath. Unaware of this, I believed Simon and went home after being shoved into the street. That night, Ron heard rustling sounds from the kitchen. Curious, he sneaked in through a gap in the partition and found his bound and gagged mother in the floor storage. He shouted, "Mom," in shock, which got Simon's attention. Simon chained Ron and shoved him into the storage space. Ron heard Simon muttering, "I thought she'd be dead after 3 days." This revealed that Lily had been without food or water for 5 days, mummifying in the floor storage.
That's just a made-up story by him.
Simon claimed Ron was lying because he was in his rebellious phase. Then why was she mummified?
Actually, Lily had a high fever and died suddenly. I loved her and couldn't let go, so I kept her at home.
He lowered his head, wiping fake tears. I approached him quietly.
"Mom."
My son reached out for comfort, but I grabbed a stack of papers from his nearby bag and hit him hard on the head. Don't be ridiculous. You neglected your child for over a week and went on an affair trip. That's your idea of love? The stack of papers was evidence of my son's infidelity. His computer was full of emails and photos with his mistress, and gifts and luxurious dinners were all documented in the photos.
Where did you get those?
Frantically trying to hide the papers, he looked pathetic. I found this account book in your closet. I slammed a bank book on the table, making Simon's face twitch. The bank book showed transfers totaling $200,000 over 3 months, way too much for a salary. You said you were in accounting, But this is embezzlement.
Ha! This is a bonus. It's too early for you to go senile.
He spat back, but then,
That's not true.
a strong voice came from the next room. Simon looked in shock as a tall, middle-aged man stepped out.
Ollie?
Yes, he was Ollie, the head of accounting at Simon's company. After finding Lily and consulting with the police, I also discussed the suspicious transfers with the manager. The company was aware of the unusual transactions and was already investigating. Ollie had called to check on us, and I informed him about Simon's return. Instead of calling the police, I called Ollie, who offered to accompany me for safety.
You've let me down.
Standing with folded arms and glaring at Simon, he continued.
Everyone makes mistakes, but a crime is inexcusable even once.
What? Simon told me he was an exceptional employee. I asked, confused by the contradiction.
No, he makes many mistakes and tries to blame female colleagues.
I was stunned and looked at Simon, who avoided eye contact.
Still, I believed he had potential. Embezzlement is unforgivable.
Spending stolen money on your mistress. What a disgrace. Shrinking under our combined scolding, Simon suddenly raised his head and started speaking boldly.
Embezzlement and infidelity were wrong, but I couldn't accept Lily's sudden death. I wanted her close, so I put her under the floor.
Claiming she wasn't alive when confined, he began sobbing theatrically. Stop lying. Lily is alive. When I revealed that Lily survived, my son's eyes widened in horror. His fake tears were obvious. That day, thanks to the doctors, Lily was saved and, though bedridden, gave statements to the police matching Ron's. She discovered Simon's bankbook and was attacked when she tried to contact the company. Remembering her trembling during her statement made my anger flare up again.
Our company values customer trust above all. We cannot tolerate this. You're fired.
The manager's low, powerful voice made Simon tear up. What you did is unforgivable. You're cut off. You won't see your wife or child again. My declaration visibly shook Simon.
What? Fired and cut off? How am I supposed to live? Help me, Mom.
Go cry in the bathroom again. I pushed away my son, who was clinging to me, crying. Just then, I heard police sirens, signaling the arrival of officers called before Ollie's appearance.
Am I really getting arrested? I just wanted to impress a younger woman.
Simon cried out, but I handed him over to the police, shooing him away. After that, my son was arrested. The lawyer predicts that, due to embezzling company funds, he might spend about 10 years in prison. Lily divorced him immediately and demanded $200,000 in alimony and child support. I hope he spends his life in poverty and loneliness, darker than the space under the floorboards. On the other hand, Lily has fully recovered, and Ron is doing well too. Feeling responsible for my son's actions, I offered to support their living expenses, but Lily firmly refused, saying she would work. Instead, she asked me to help take care of Ron, which feels like a reward, to be able to spend time with my adorable grandson at such an easy-to-handle age. Lily started working as an insurance agent and amazingly became the top salesperson nationwide. I will continue to watch over both of them with all my heart. How did you find this story? Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.
May I leave? Great. I'm happy. Kevin, let's get ready right away.
What? What's with that attitude?
Exactly. It's rude to seem so happy. It'll be unforgivable even if you apologize later.
Not at all. Thank you. I'll finally be free. My name is Kathy. I'm currently a housewife, living with my husband's family. After getting married, I continued working for a while, but my mother-in-law broke her bone and needed care. My friends sympathize with me, saying it's tough. But I don't see it that way. I've been indebted to my mother-in-law since before marriage, and we get along very well in the first place. We get along better than with my own mother, and she talks to me like a friend. So, I'm genuinely happy to be able to help my mother-in-law. Besides, I enjoy housework. So, I think being a housewife suits me better than working outside. But I have two worries. One is about my husband, Kevin. Kevin seems to be busy with work lately, often coming home around midnight. He sleeps a lot even on holidays, so I'm worried about his health. I want to make lots of nutritious food and support him. And the other worry is much more serious. My father-in-law and my high school sister-in-law, who live together, lie all the time. My father-in-law and sister-in-law keep saying I'm a bad wife. For example, when my father-in-law goes for his daily walk, he tells the neighbors,
Kathy is a bad wife who doesn't do any housework and sleeps all day.
It seems my sister-in-law also says things like,
I do all the housework.
when she meets neighbors on her way to and from school.
I wake up early in the morning to cook breakfast. Then, I do all the household chores before going to school, wash the bathtub, and when I come back from school, I cook and clean again until just before I go to bed. My brother's wife is like a demon, so I'm scared.
Is that so? That's tough. If there's anything I can do to help, let me know.
Thank you. But if she finds out I'm telling others about it, I'll get in even more trouble. I'm fine, so just cheer me on.
I overheard conversations like this between my sister-in-law and the neighbors while the window screen was open. In reality, I do all the housework and even make lunch for my sister-in-law. But if there's something she doesn't like in her lunchbox, she won't eat it and will complain, so I'm very careful. But for some reason, my father-in-law and sister-in-law seem to enjoy telling lies like these. They frequently talk to neighbors about how hard they're trying or about me, the bad wife. There are many people who have lived around here for a long time, and my father-in-law and sister-in-law know many of them.
They wouldn't lie. It seems they really got a bad daughter-in-law. Kevin was a good kid, too. It seems tough.
Yeah. Poor thing. I wonder if there are a lot of difficult people among those who come from outside.
I know that I'm being talked about like this. But since I'm going to live here from now on, I don't want to stay misunderstood. One day, when I went shopping at the nearby supermarket, I noticed that people around were whispering.
Oh, that person is the rumored bad daughter-in-law.
She is the one who makes the high schooler Mary do the housework.
That's right.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
It's nice weather today, isn't it? So I couldn't just run away. I initiated a greeting with the neighbors. They probably didn't expect me to approach them. They seemed a little flustered but greeted me with a smile.
Are you shopping today?
Yes. Well, I cook for 5 people every meal, so it's a lot of groceries and I have to go shopping almost every day. Look, all these groceries piled up.
Oh, really? I guess it must be tough just shopping. And, other housework must be tough too, right?
Yes, cleaning, laundry, it's all tough. But I can manage because it's for my family.
I see. Housewives have it tough. But, doesn't anyone in your household help out?
My husband has been busy lately. My mother-in-law broke her bone and is busy with rehabilitation now. My sister-in-law is a high schooler and has friends. And my father-in-law is, from a different generation.
Ah, I see. I can't imagine your father-in-law doing housework. Mary also comes home late, so it's impossible for her to do housework.
That's right. Both can't do it. Oh, sorry in front of you.
Not at all. It's the truth. By the way, was there something about our household chores?
No, nothing like that. Right?
Yes, never mind.
The two of them hurriedly left, but this should clear up any misunderstandings. If rumors spread from those two, there won't be any more misunderstandings. Even without that, neighbors should understand when they see me going shopping every day. But it wasn't that simple.
Hey, Kathy, what are you saying about me in the neighborhood?
That's right. You can't even interact properly with the neighbors, and you call yourself a housewife?
It seems that the neighbors directly asked my father-in-law and sister-in-law if Kathy was doing all the housework. The two who were lying were embarrassed and angry. But, in reality, I'm the one doing the housework.
What's with the attitude? Despite being a daughter-in-law, you're the wife of this household. Therefore, your achievements in your work are the results of my instruction. In other words, I'm the most important one in the family. You just keep quiet and do the housework.
That's right. I can't believe you're making fun of your family.
It seems that the two of them, even if their lies were exposed to the neighbors, had no intention of reflecting at all. Moreover, they even blamed me for trying to clear up the misunderstanding. I'll have to be a little more careful about how I deal with it. While I was thinking about it, one day, I got an unexpected phone call.
Hello, I'm sorry to call you out of the blue. I'm Brown, Mary's homeroom teacher. There's something I'd like to tell you about her grades.
To me, not to my father-in-law?
Yes, Mary's grades have suddenly dropped. She's a very outstanding student, but it's suddenly happened this year. So, I asked if there's anything bothering her.
What did my sister-in-law say?
Well, she cries saying that her sister-in-law makes her do the housework. And she's told to buy sweets at the supermarket while studying. When she refuses, she's yelled at.
I don't do that. I've never said such a thing to my sister-in-law. I hurriedly denied it. I've never told my sister-in-law such a thing even once. The reason for my sister-in-law's dropping grades is that she recently got a boyfriend and has been playing around. I had indeed noticed that she hadn't been studying much lately. But I thought it wasn't my place as her sister-in-law to intervene, so I kept quiet. Seeing me flustered, the homeroom teacher must have found it suspicious and spoke in a stern voice.
Mary is a very excellent student. Yet, she cries saying that she's being made to do housework because she's young.
No, I never did such. It's just because my sister-in-law herself hasn't studied hard recently.
So, you mean that she's lying? It's impossible, right? If this situation continues, I'll visit your home.
The homeroom teacher said only what he wanted to say and then hung up the phone. I was shocked by the unexpected turn of events and remained stunned. I never imagined that I wouldn't be heard like that. Will this kind of thing continue in the future? While the neighbor's misunderstanding was somehow cleared up, it might have been just a stroke of luck. It's tough not being believed by anyone if I'm suspected like this again. No matter how hard I try, I just get scolded by my father-in-law and sister-in-law. I can't endure such an environment. But talking to my mother-in-law is enjoyable, and I want to help her. Besides, despite being troublesome father-in-law and sister-in-law to me, they are Kevin's real family. If I endure it alone, and if Kevin and my mother-in-law are happy, maybe that's better. I shouldn't care about others' opinions, right? After that, I lived with a dark feeling. Even when my father-in-law and sister-in-law made sarcastic remarks, I just brushed them off. My mother-in-law looked worried, but I smiled and pretended everything was fine. On one Saturday, while I was thinking like that, Kevin invited me on a weekend date out of the blue. Though he always looked tired, I went out, thinking it was unusual, and we arrived at the cafe where we often went on dates.
You seem a little different than usual lately. Is something wrong? I'm worried about you, Kathy.
No, nothing's wrong. I'm fine.
But
I couldn't tell Kevin about the complaints from my father-in-law and sister-in-law. I tried to smile and brush it off, but Kevin wouldn't let it go. He patiently asked me, "Well, actually." And then, I finally told Kevin everything. About my father-in-law and sister-in-law lying to the neighbors, and even what my sister-in-law's homeroom teacher had told me.
Kathy, I'm sorry I didn't notice until now. But you don't have to endure it anymore. Let's leave the house right away. We can just ignore Dad and Mary.
But, what about mother-in-law?
actually, Mom suggested today's plan. I've been busy with work, and Mom said she's more worried about you than herself.
Mother-in-law. I felt warm inside at Kevin and my mother-in-law's kindness. I had thought I had no allies, blamed by the neighbors and my sister-in-law's teacher. But there are two wonderful allies close to me. Thinking so, I felt the strength to fight against my father-in-law and sister-in-law. I immediately told Kevin that I wanted to do what I could before running away, and Kevin nodded with a smile.
Oh, the useless daughter-in-law who doesn't do housework is back. Just let us warm up the leftovers for lunch and you go on your fancy date. Truly, a lazy wife.
Warming up lunch was such a hassle. If I couldn't go to college because my grades dropped from wasting time like that, it would be your fault, sister-in-law.
Dad, Mary, stop saying nonsense. It's too much even for leftovers.
Shut up, big brother. You're hardly ever at home, so don't butt in.
That's right. I'm the most important one in this house.
I was amazed at my father-in-law and sister-in-law immediately complaining as soon as I got back. In the past, I would have just given some vague response. But now, Kevin and my mother-in-law were there. They gave me courage. Kevin works hard for the family even when he's not at home. I believe I contribute through managing the household chores. I don't want to be labeled as a bad wife just because I'm not always at home. I don't want to hear such remarks.
What's with that attitude?
Yeah, Exactly. Acting all high and mighty.
It's just normal. Even children can warm up lunch in the microwave. And isn't it a bit much to say it affects exams?
Shut up. Exam takers are delicate. What? You're acting arrogant for a newcomer.
That's right. Acting all high and mighty. If you're going to be that rebellious, then get out.
Father-in-law and sister-in-law didn't seem to like my retorts. They both turned red and were furious. But that was exactly as Kevin and I planned. Eh? Are you really okay with this?
Huh?
It's okay if I leave? Yay, I'm happy. Kevin, let's start packing right away.
What's with that attitude?
Yeah. So rude. How dare you look happy? I won't forgive you even if you apologize later.
It's totally fine. Thank you. I'll finally be free.
What do you mean by being free? Fine, you're not needed here. Pack your things and leave by next weekend.
Father-in-law and sister-in-law seemed adamant about not taking back their words about us leaving. So, with a smile, I told them, well then, I'll be leaving. Of course, I won't be doing any housework from now on, so please make breakfast for everyone, Mary's lunch, and also lunch for father-in-law and mother-in-law yourselves in the morning. And of course, daily cleaning and laundry. Since there's a lot of laundry, please do it at least twice. And of course, shopping, neighborhood activities, and in this season, it's tough to clean the garden, isn't it? When I conveyed just a fraction of the housework I had been doing, their faces turned pale in an instant. It was slightly amusing to see their faces go from red to white in an instant. But even so, they couldn't bring themselves to apologize.
What you've been doing is just simple housework. It's obvious.
That's right. You're just pretending to be busy. You were probably taking naps every day.
Although they were trying to act tough, I didn't have time to deal with it. Kevin and I immediately went back to our room upstairs and started discussing our plans for the future. First, let's quickly move out to a weekly apartment. Once things settle down, we can look for a nice house. It'll cost a bit of money, but it shouldn't be a problem. While we were looking at various property information, we heard a loud noise coming from the kitchen downstairs. They were probably trying to cook something together. It sounded scary what they could make, but it's no longer our concern. After that, as promised, we moved out over the weekend. It seems like Kevin's family has been in trouble since then.
My sister-in-law left without permission and it's troublesome. Hey, can you come over and help with the housework a bit? Just do it quickly in your spare time.
My father-in-law is saying that, but no one believes him anymore.
If you can do it quickly in your spare time, why don't you do it yourself?
He couldn't say anything back to that. Nowadays, they can't even properly do laundry, and they're wearing slightly dirty clothes. It seems like my sister-in-law was saying that the lunches and sweets I made were made by herself. But since I left, those lies were quickly exposed. She got dumped by her boyfriend for lying like that, and even her friends are disgusted with her. It seems like she won't get any leniency from her homeroom teacher either. The homeroom teacher, who found out about my sister-in-law's true nature, called to apologize politely. But since it no longer concerns me, I asked him not to contact me again. I no longer want anything to do with my father-in-law and sister-in-law. Even so, they occasionally contact me.
Hey, you're my daughter-in-law, right? Can you come over and help out a bit at our house? Just in your free time.
Hey, I'm your sister-in-law, right? I got dumped by my boyfriend and even my friends are keeping their distance. Help me out. Please.
But because they keep saying such selfish things, I have no intention of responding. I report everything to Kevin, and I ignore them. If they continue to be so persistent, I'll block them next time. Living a life without dealing with liars is truly blissful. A few weeks later, Kevin and I moved out of the weekly apartment and now live happily in our new home. Of course, we also took in my mother-in-law, and the three of us live happily together. Recently, it's become a little trend for my mother-in-law and me to go for walks to the nearby park when she's feeling well. Her rehabilitation is going well, and soon she'll be able to walk without a cane. Kevin is also planning to come home a little earlier tonight. I'm planning to make lots of his favorite dishes and wait for him. How did you like today's story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Well then, let's meet again in the next video.